Hi, this is Erin, and I'm here to give you your first tutorial on mosaic making. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to go over some of the materials that you're going to need. This is my garage. This is our work studio. This is my husband, Shane, working on some cabinets over here. Our babies are asleep, so this is our freedom time. So this is an amazing project endeavor that you are jumping into with us, which is so exciting for our Black Lives Matter mosaic mural. So to get us started, you'll have a pair of tile nippers. You are going to have some glue. You're also going to need a Sharpie and your bucket of tile. Okay, so now you're ready to get started. If you don't wear glasses, I would recommend that you wear a pair of safety goggles. And what you want to do is you want to take your quilt piece and put it on your flat work table. So the first layer that's going down on my table is this beautiful quilt piece, the square. Okay, so I'm going to tape that down so it's not going anywhere. The second piece that is going to go down will be my plastic. So I'm going to put the plastic down. And again, I'm going to just give it a little bit of security by taping down the plastic as well. Okay. And then the third layer, and I want to make sure the plastic is completely covering my paper because I don't want anything that's glued on top of this mesh to get stuck to the paper. So paper completely cover with plastic, and then I'm going to take my mesh square and I am going to make sure that all parts of this square are covered with mesh, and I'm putting it sticky side down, and I'm going to smooth it so that there's no bumps in the mesh. Okay, so it should look like that. Okay, great. And because it's sticky, you don't really need any tape to hold it down, but I'm just going to put a couple on the sides just so I don't have any sliding. Just make sure you're not covering any of the border of your square. Okay. Here, what I'm doing is I've laid out all of my tiles so I can see them, and I've taken the little brown smalty glass pieces, and what I'm doing here is I'm lining the straight lines along the pattern of the leaves. There are 4 leaves, and I find that straight lines are the easiest part to create in the mosaic because all you have to do is line up the straight lines. Now, here what I'm doing is a curve, and those squares are going to be hard to curve around, and I'm really going to have to space them out in order to get them in those places. So I'm going to use a process called keystoning, where I cut the corners. So one side of the square is longer than another. So I'm actually creating a small trapezoid to kind of move the squares along into a curve. And I've arranged them in a way where I kind of had to space them out so that they're sort of curving into this semicircle shape. So in some of these pieces, I did have to cut them in a process that's called keystoning. So basically what keystoning is, where you take a small tile like this, and I'm going to just show you in Sharpie. I like to mark my tile up, that way I can see where I want to cut. So you'll see on this piece, it's hard to tell, but I've marked this little bit of corner here. And what that does is when I start cutting those corners, they give the tile a bit of a curve. And so when I put it against a flat edge, it actually starts to curve that piece around. So let me see if I can give you more of an idea of what that looks like. It's sort of like a puzzle. So this piece, one thing you'll notice is when you cut, sometimes it'll cut in half or it won't cut exactly where you want it to. But on this piece, I cut it on the edge there. And then I'm gonna add another piece that also has a bit of a curve to it, and see how it starts to give you the motion of moving around, okay? And you can achieve that look by just merely moving the tiles around and giving them a tiny bit of a cut or turn or even spacing them out a bit to give them a bit of a curve. So we can explore keystoning a little bit more, but I know that I certainly use it a lot, especially when I'm creating the curves of eyes or the shape of a face or a nose. I want to keystone my tile so that it moves, so that I don't have just these really rigid squares. So your tile nippers are really great at doing is just kind of nipping away at any side or piece that you want to get rid of. So my trick to the tile nipper, and you know, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it, is to take the teeth right here and to line it up. So I've got a little line, I want to cut off this triangle so I can keystone my piece. But what I do is I just put about half of the tile in there and I hold on to the other side so that it kind of keeps it firmly in place. And I'm gonna nip away at it. And with this glass, you absolutely must wear some type of protective gear for your eyes, because sometimes these pieces will just go flying. And just as a word of caution, when you are cutting, you may cut your fingers, so just be wary of any little pieces that have flown around your table. Maybe have a little dust broom and really try to keep those pieces, but please absolutely protect your eyes. I've already got one little cut from a piece flying. So just a word of caution that, you know, sometimes you will cut your fingers. So maybe keep some Band-Aids on hand as well. But I've got this nice piece here that's got a little corner cut out of it. So remember, cutting the corners is good for mosaics, because when we create those corners and we put them up against another flat piece like this is what I mean by keystone. Is it just gives it a little bit of curve and movement going around. And that's going to give us those nice shapes. So this will be really good practice for you for keystoning. Also, one thing you'll notice is in the very beginning when I was working, I was lining the pieces up and then moving them and gluing them. The more confident you get, what I did after I put all of my lines in the middle of these leaves, I just went ahead and put the glue around the edges so I could just work as I went. And the more confident that you feel, that'll get a little bit easier. So I hope you enjoy putting your leaves down on your quilt. And the next piece is going to be filling in the background. So we'll move on to that next. Great. So now it's my time to create this background in yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what's called a crazy paved background. I'm going to start from one corner and work around each leaf. I'm going to use my Sharpie to help me place the little squares of yellow I have and to nip off any edges that go beyond the borders. I also want to think ahead. How will I find or create a piece that will come next? So I love going around the edges and moving towards the center. Now, once all of my yellow background is complete, please choose another color Smaltie for the inside of your leaves. So here I've chosen a blue, and the same applies. I'm using my Sharpie to create lines that I will nip away, and I will fill the inside of these leaves with that beautiful vibrant color. And remember, you can move Smaltie front and back. It's gorgeous on both sides, so be sure to check both sides to find the best available color you have. Have a great time creating.